Hello, guys. I'm a bit late today and I'm a bit sleepy. That's why I'm looking a bit, I don't know, dizzy. However, it's high time we started reading chapter 5, yeah, and I hope you enjoy reading as much as I do. Yeah, I have been training, I have been practicing a lot for this chapter. Yeah, actually, I tried to make it as smooth as possible. Yeah, and I hope everything goes well today. Okay, so I start reading, and another thing that I wanted to say is that today I will try not to read that fast. Yeah, I understand that I take pieces of material and read them very fast, and I don't think this is the best idea how to deal with text and with you, my audience. That's why I will try to make everything a bit slower, yeah, so that you can take it in more effectively. Okay, so I start reading. Yeah, chapter 5: Confirmation, Transformation. I have so much evidence. Can Zoogles be sometimes Boogles? Corroboration. Popper's idea. As much as it is ingrained in our habits and conventional wisdom, confirmation can be a dangerous error. Assume I told you that I had evidence that the football player O.J. Simpson, who was accused of killing his wife in the 1990s, was not a criminal. Look, the other day I had breakfast with him and he didn't kill anybody. I'm serious. I did not see him kill a single person. Wouldn't that confirm his innocence? If I said such a thing, you would certainly call a shrink, an ambulance, or perhaps even the police, since you might think that I spend too much time in trading rooms or in cafes thinking about that black swan topic, and that my logic may represent such an immediate danger to society that I myself need to be locked up immediately. You'd have the same reaction if I told you that I took a nap the other day on the railroad track in New Rochelle, New York, and was not killed. Hey, look at me. I am alive, I would say. And that is evidence that lying on train tracks is risk free. Yet consider the following. Look again at figure 1 in chapter 4. Someone who observed the Turkey's first 1,000 days, but not the shock of the 1,001st, will tell you, and rightly so, that there is no evidence of the possibility of large events, that is, black swans. You're likely to confuse that statement, however, particularly if you do not pay close attention, with the statement that there is evidence of no possible black swans. Even though it is in fact vast, the logical distance between the two assertions will seem very narrow in your mind, so that one can be easily substituted for the other. 10 days from now, if you manage to remember the first statement at all, you will be likely to retain the second inaccurate version, that there is proof of no black swans. I call this confusion the round trip fallacy, since these statements are not interchangeable. Such confusion of the two statements partakes of a trivial, very trivial but crucial logical error. But we are not immune to trivial logical errors, nor are professors and thinkers particularly immune to them. Complicated equations do not tend to cohabit happily with clarity of mind. Unless we concentrate very hard, we are likely to unwittingly simplify the problem because our minds routinely do so without our knowing it. It is worth a deeper examination here. Many people confuse the statement, almost all terrorists are Muslims, with almost all Muslims are terrorists. Assume that the first statement is true, that 99% of terrorists are Muslims. This would mean that only about 0.001% of Muslims are terrorists, since there are more than 1 billion Muslims and only, say, 10,000 terrorists. 1 in 100,000. So, the logical mistake makes you unconsciously overestimate the odds of a randomly drawn individual Muslim person between the age of, say, 15 and 50 being a terrorist by close to 50,000 times. The reader might see in this rounded fallacy the unfairness of stereotypes. Minorities in urban areas in the United States have suffered from the same confusion. Even if most criminals come from their ethnic subgroup, most of their ethnic subgroup are not criminals, but they still suffer from discrimination by people who should know better. I never meant to say that the conservatives are generally stupid. I meant to say that stupid people are generally conservative. John Stuart Mill once complained. This problem is chronic. If you tell people that the key to success is not always skills, they think that you are telling them that it is never skills, always luck. Our inferential machinery, that which we use in daily life, is not made for a complicated environment in which a statement changes markedly when its wording is slightly modified. Consider that in a primitive environment, there is no consequential difference between the statements most killers are wild animals and most wild animals are killers. There is an error here, but it is almost inconsequential. Our statistical intuition have not evolved for a habitat in which these subtleties can make a big difference. Zoogles are not all boogles. All zoogles are boogles. You saw a boogle. Is it a zoogle? Not necessarily, since not all boogles are zoogles. Adolescents who make a mistake in answering this kind of question in their SAT test might not make it to college. Yet another person can get very high scores on the SATs and still feel a chill of fear when someone from the wrong side of town steps into the elevator. This inability to automatically transfer knowledge and sophistication from one situation to another, or from theory to practice, is a quite disturbing attribute of human nature. Let us call it the domain specificity of our reactions. By domain specific, I mean that our reactions, our mode of thinking, our intuitions depend on the context in which the matter is presented, what evolutionary psychologists call the domain of the object or the event. The classroom is a domain, real life is another. We react to a piece of information not on its logical merit, but on the basis of which framework surrounds it, and how it registers with our social emotional system. Logical problems approached one way in the classroom might be treated differently in daily life. Indeed, they are treated differently in daily life. Knowledge, even when it is exact, does not often lead to appropriate actions because we tend to forget what we know or forget how to process it properly if we do not pay attention, even when we are experts. Statisticians, it has been shown, tend to leave their brains in the classroom and engage in the most trivial inferential errors once they are let out on the streets. In 1971, the psychologists Danny Kahneman and Emma Tversky plied professors of statistics with statistical questions, not phrased as statistical questions. One was similar to the following, changing the example for clarity. Assume that you live in a town with two hospitals, one large, the other small. On a given day, 60% of those born in one of the two hospitals are boys. Which hospital is it likely to be? Many statisticians made the equivalent of the mistake during a casual conversation of choosing the larger hospital, when in fact, the very basis of statistics is that large samples are more stable and should fluctuate less from the long term average, here 50% for each of the sexes, than smaller samples. These statisticians would have flunked their own exams. During my days as a quant, I counted hundreds of such severe inferential mistakes made by statisticians who forgot that they were statisticians. For another illustration of the way we can be ludicrously domain specific in daily life, go to the luxury Reebok Sports Club in New York City and look at the number of people who, after riding the escalator for a couple of floors, head directly to the stairmasters. This domain specificity of our inferences and reactions works both ways. Some problems we can understand in their applications, but not in textbooks. Others were better at capturing the textbook than in their practical application. People can manage to effortlessly solve a problem in a social situation, but struggle when it is presented as an abstract logical problem. We tend to use different mental machinery, so called models, in different situations. Our brain lacks a central all purpose computer that starts with logical rules and applies them equally to all possible situations. And, as I've said, we can commit a logical mistake in reality but not in the classroom. This asymmetry is best visible in cancer detection. Take doctors examining a patient for signs of cancer. Tests are typically done on patients who want to know if they are cured or if there is recurrence. In fact, recurrence is a misnomer. It simply means that the treatment did not kill all the cancerous cells and that these undetected malignant cells have started to multiply out of control. It is not feasible in the present state of technology to examine every single one of the patient's cells to see if all of them are non-malignant. So, the doctor takes a sample by scanning the body with as much precision as possible. Then she makes an assumption about what she did not see. I was once taken aback when the doctor told me after a routine cancer checkup, "Stop worrying, we have evidence of cure." "Why?" I asked. "There is evidence of no cancer," was the reply. "How do you know?" I asked. He replied, "The scan is negative." Yet he went around calling himself doctor. An acronym used in the medical literature is NED, which stands for no evidence of disease. There is no such thing as END, evidence of no disease. Or no disease. Um, Yet, my experience discussing this matter with plenty of doctors, even those who publish papers on their results, is that many slip into the round-trip fallacy during conversation. Doctors, in the midst of the scientific arrogance of the 1960s, looked down at mother's milk as something primitive, as if it could be replicated by their laboratories, not realizing that mother's milk might include useful components that could have eluded their scientific understanding. A simple confusion of absence of evidence of the benefits of mother's milk with evidence of absence of the benefits. Another case of platonicity is it did not make sense to breastfeed when we could simply use bottles. Many people paid the price for this naive inference. Those who were not breastfed as infants turned out to be at an increased risk of a collection of health problems, including a higher likelihood of developing certain types of cancer. There had to be in mother's milk some necessary nutrients that still elude us. Furthermore, benefits to mothers who breastfeed were also neglected, such as a reduction in the risk of breast cancer. Likewise with tonsils, the removal of tonsils may lead to a high incidence of throat cancer, but for decades, doctors never suspected that this useless tissue might actually have a use that escaped their detection. The same with the dietary fiber found in fruits and vegetables. Doctors in the 1960s found it useless because they saw no immediate evidence of its necessity, and so they created a malnourished generation. Fiber, turns out, acts to slow down the absorption of sugars in the blood and scrapes the intestinal tract of precancerous cells. Indeed, medicine has caused plenty of damage throughout history, owing to this simple kind of inferential confusion. I'm not saying here that doctors should not have beliefs, only that some kinds of definitive, closed beliefs need to be avoided. This is what Menottes and his school seem to be advocating with their brand of skeptical empirical medicine that avoided theorizing. Medicine has gotten better, but many kinds of knowledge have not. Evidence. By a mental mechanism I call naive empiricism, we have a natural tendency to look for instances that confirm our story and our vision of the world. These instances are always easy to find. Alas, with tools and fools, anything can be easy to find. You take past instances that corroborate your theories and you treat them as evidence. For instance, a diplomat will show you his accomplishments, not what he failed to do. Mathematicians will try to convince you that their science is useful to society by pointing out instances where it proved helpful, not those where it was a waste of time, or worse, those numerous mathematical applications that inflicted a severe cost on society owing to the highly unempirical nature of elegant mathematical theories. Even in testing a hypothesis, we tend to look for instances where the hypothesis proved true. Of course, we can easily find confirmation. All we have to do is look, or have a researcher do it for us. I can find confirmation for just about anything, the way a skilled London cabbie can find traffic to increase the fare, even on a holiday. Some people go further and give me examples of events that we have been able to foresee with some success. Indeed, there are a few, like landing a man on the moon and the economic growth of the 21st century. We can find plenty of counter evidence to the points in this book, the best being that newspapers are excellent at predicting movie and theater shadows. Look, I predicted yesterday that the sun would rise today, and it did. Okay, so this chapter has been a bit easier than the previous ones. Actually, I'm not talking about the whole chapter, but only about the first half of it. The next half will be read in a couple of weeks. Yeah, next Sunday we're not going to meet, but we are going to meet in 2 weeks. So we're just in one Sunday. So I hope somebody will come uh, to my readings, or that you watch it in not online, but you watch it in, I don't know what to call it. Okay, I'm liking this word. Yeah. Even if you were not present online, maybe you will watch the video afterwards. Yeah, that's what I mean. Mhm. And don't forget that if you happen to come to my online readings, uh, we have a possibility to discuss the chapter on my Discord server. Yeah, so some sort of a discussion club. Okay, so till the next time, see you then. Bye.